Date 990 M41. Planet orbiting Esthera 3. Time morning, approximately. Location the Fortress Monastery of the Knights Corvus. She knocked on the door to my chambers. I knew she was there before she entered, but I did not answer it right away. I was sitting by my power armor, glancing over the damage from the battle 2 days prior. My hand brushed the dents and markings left on the plate. An artificer or perhaps a tech marine could have a look over it to get it back to full battle efficiency, but for now I was pleased to somewhat look upon it. A reminder of the battle, and a reminder of my duty.
Captain Leoden?
The voice called weakly. It was soft but melodious, like the sound of rain dripping off a window sill back on my homeworld. A lifetime ago. I closed my eyes and exhaled through my nose. Enter, I ordered. The door opened with a hiss, and I heard the soft footsteps of the woman enter my chamber. I turned my head to glance at her. I had little experience with women, save for memories of my mother when I was a juvie, but I had not exposed myself frequently enough to see them or grasp an understanding of them. She had soft features and fair skin, long red hair that was tied back in a tail that touched the small of her back, and faint freckles that ran along her nose and cheeks, making it appear that she was blushing. Her ice blue eyes kept trying to look away from me, but would then dart back again and again. She wore the fatigues of a chapter serf, black and dark silver with the symbol of our chapter emblazoned upon the shoulder, a black painted raven with wings turned downward. The Knights Corvus, or the Raven Knights. Her name was Allison, I believe, but aside from that, I was uncertain. She gulped but tried to stand straight and true. It was commendable. What do you require of me? I asked.
Nothing, she gasped.
Then what are you doing here? I growled. She blinched a little at the demand and cleared her throat.
I wanted to thank you, sir.
Thank me? I asked, finally turning my body to look at her.
Well, it was you who rescued me back on Esthera.
I knew who she was. It had all been a blur while on Esthera, but I remembered her face. I had indeed rescued her, though perhaps her thanks was not correct. I just shrugged my shoulders at her gratitude. I did my duty. That is all, I answered.
But it was in doing that my life was spared, and for that I thank you.
She bowed her head, and I watched her for a moment. You elected to join us as a serf? I asked curiously.
I have no home left. The Xenos took that away from me, she lamented,
a shadow of regret on her features. She pushed that aside, though.
But I am glad to be aboard the ship of my rescuers.
You do not understand what you've chosen to do, I growled, turning my back on her again. You should go to the Ordinator Maximus Zebrin and request transfer back to Esthera. You do not belong here.
But how can I ever thank...
You do not thank an Astartes by pledging yourself to their number or their mission, I retorted with a harsh snap that sent her reeling back. We are the Emperor's angels. We are his swords against the darkness of the galaxy. We fight, slaughter, and die for mankind, and we are given no thanks, no gratitude, and no respite. You would attach yourself to us without even the faintest understanding of what it is we do or how. Perhaps I had been too harsh, for I saw her looking quite taken aback and a little hurt. I cursed under my breath, but did not vocalize it.
Forgive me, sir,
she whispered, just loud enough for me to hear it. No forgiveness is required, I answered her. For a moment I thought she'd left, for I did not hear anything more. But the sound of my chamber door opening did not sound, so I knew she had not moved. I straightened a little and finally sighed. Do you have more to say?
I want to understand.
Say again.
You said that I don't understand what it is you do or how, so please help me understand.
I cannot, I retorted. I cannot help you understand because you are not and can never be an Astartes. She looked saddened and nodded her head.
Forgive my intrusion, she said somberly.
Finally, she turned and walked out of my quarters, leaving me alone once again, alone with my thoughts. Her face kept creeping into my memory of where I'd seen her on the planet, of the battle. Why had I saved her? I'd asked myself that then, too, and it didn't make sense at the time. We had received an astropathic message, a call for aid from the small planet of Esthera 3. The planet was under siege by Eldar. We were informed that they were of the more ruinous variety, but that hardly mattered to me or my brothers. A Xeno who dared to threaten a human world would feel the wrath of the Emperor, whether servants of dark powers or not. These dark Eldar were besieging Esthera and had been for a few months. The battle was a stalemate at the present, with the Xenos having pushed far into the population centers, but were now pinned down by 4 Imperial Guard regiments on the planet. It would be easy to bottle up the filthy creatures and purge them from this world with an orbital bombardment. However, the Xenos weren't stupid. The cowards had launched a surprise attack on the command bunker, and their intense offensive capabilities had slaughtered the defenses of the Imperial command. And with the loss of their ground command bunker and the officers in charge of the planetary defense, the Imperial Guard was essentially neutered. It was imperative that communication be re-established and the command bunker be retaken. And that was the job for a chapter. I had landed along with the rest of my first squad of 2nd Company. We had to move fast and light, and too many Space Marines would be noticeable. We were sons of the Raven. Stealth was our pride and our gift. We would not be seen as we made our way to the bunker, and when the enemy was aware of us, it would be their downfall. Brother Bellaris was taking point, his bolter trained on the terrain. It was rocky, obliterated by craters caused by detonations and explosives. This whole territory had been a battleground not long ago. Signs of bodies littered the earth. We ignored them. "No hostiles sighted, Captain," he muttered. "Push on," I ordered, and we went. Apothecary Kenrick hurried to my side and looked ahead towards a smoking barn to the east. "That structure's defensible. It's possible that Xenos have set up a lookout post there." I glanced at it and nodded darkly. Acknowledged. "Brother Tobias, you're with me. We'll investigate the farm. The rest of you, hold position and don't risk exposure." "Confirm that," Bellaris answered. I turned with Tobias and we stalked towards the farm. Tobias was one of my most trusted brothers. He'd been with me during our training days, and I trusted his instincts. It wasn't that I didn't trust the others, but if I had to pick one Marine to stand with me that night, it was him. I had a bad feeling about the whole situation. The barn seemed an excellent site for an ambush or a lookout post. But why hadn't we seen the Xenos? "Place has seen better days," Tobias nodded. "Still, could be worse. At least they left it standing." "Why do you suppose they did that?" "Who knows," I answered. I didn't care to analyze the intentions of Xenos. Greenskins destroyed and maimed everything they came across. Tau tried to rebuild and restructure worlds that they conquer. Dark Eldar. I'd only encountered them twice in the past, and in both instances structural integrity was the last thing anyone cared about. But suddenly I stopped. I heard a scream, and the sound of hissing laughter. I motioned for Tobias to kneel and wait. We sank down and watched. From the wreckage of the barn ran a woman, red-haired and freckled. She was the one who I would come to know as Allison. But at the time, she looked like a simple farmer's wife or daughter. Behind her, though, were the 3 tall armored figures, dark painted with black and purple, their faces hidden and their lean bodies drawing blades. The human woman cried out, ducking one of the swings of the Eldar and trying to find shelter in the building. She was squirrely, but she wouldn't escape for long. "Seems the Xenos are distracted," Tobias noted. "That woman bought us an opportunity. We'll signal our men to move out while the aliens don't notice." Tobias slunk back and began to sneak back towards the others, but I stayed put. I kept staring at the sight before me. I couldn't expose myself. There was no way I could silence all 3 Eldar immediately without raising their attention. And there was a possibility that those 3 weren't the only ones here. Another might be lurking nearby, and he may inform his fellows of our location. Trying to interfere now was a danger. I'd seen countless civilians die. I'd watched as humans were slaughtered, vaporized, melted, cut down, sometimes worse. I'd seen death. Letting this woman die would be nothing. Just another death that I'd witness. But just as I started to move, she saw me. Her eyes noticed me from the shadows, and I saw it. The look in her eye. The pleading in those blue pools. "Help me!" she cried. "Blessed Emperor, save me!" she pleaded through tears. My fists tightened on my powered sword. The Eldar mocked her cries, still unaware of my presence, still focused on her cries, focused on her pleas. "Don't leave me," she begged. And then I saw it. With a snarl, I leapt from the shadows, and the first Eldar's head came off with a clean swing of my blade. The second was quick to react with hyper-reflexes, but my blade came around and entered his chest, cutting off air and making the only sound he made a muffled cry. The third, who now had brought his blade up, swung at me. I ducked the strike, and my open hand found his throat. I roared and slammed the filthy beast to the earth, creating a small crater. I squeezed so tight I could have broken a man in 2, and the Eldar hacked and tried to scream. I then slammed my armored fist into his head 3 times until his helmet cracked, and all that remained was a lump of meat beneath my knuckles. The body jittered and twitched, and then stopped moving. Blood stained my armor and my body, but the Eldar was dead. "Captain!" Tobias cried, running towards me, silent and quick enough to even catch me off guard. I could tell behind his helmet he looked bewildered. "Forgive me, brother. I had to act." "Are we compromised?" he demanded. I turned to the woman. She was sitting, looking up at us, whimpering some prayer that I could barely hear. "You there," I ordered. She squeaked and looked up at me. "What are you doing here?"
I live here," she answered. "Please, your grace, forgive me. My father lived here. I work in the city, and when I heard about the attack, I came to find him, and—"
"Your father is likely evacuated or dead," I answered coldly. "He was foolish to come here alone and unarmed." She said nothing but bit her lip and bowed her head. "You're right. I am a fool. Your grace, forgive me. Please forgive me." "That's enough. Save your pleas," I instructed. She fell silent at once, and I looked around. "Tobias, search the area." "Yes, sir," he answered, though I could hear frustration in his voice. He didn't like that I could well have compromised the mission, but there was no way I could explain to him my reason. He wouldn't understand it, because even I didn't understand it. I stood there, baffled and wondering if perhaps I'd made a grievous error. All the while I heard the whimpering of the woman beneath me. "On your feet," I told her. "You'll come with us for now." That was 2 days ago. Now I found myself in the presence of the chapter master, leaning on one knee and my face down but resolute. Chapter Master Umbron was a hard man to read. He had the dark hair of our Gene Father, and cold purple eyes that bore into my soul, but his face was weary and tired, like he was in need of sleep. He gazed down at me from his seat and sighed. "You wish to see me, Captain?" he asked me. I nodded. "With your permission, sir, I would like to be stripped of my rank of captain," I urged. Umbron smirked. "Is this because of your actions on the planet? Your mission was successful, Eoden. You retook the command post, returned control of the capital to the Guard, and pulled out without a single casualty in your squad. That deserves commendation, not demotion," he pointed out. "I put the mission in jeopardy," I explained. "Yes, I read the AARs," he answered. "I already told you it was of no consequence." "But it could have been," I retorted. "If we had been discovered, if the enemy had learned of our movements." "They did not. That does not excuse my carelessness," I shouted, trembling, not looking up at Umbron. "I, even now, cannot truly explain why I risked the mission for one civilian." "Well, I'll be honest, I don't believe that," Umbron answered. "I think you know why you saved her, but you just don't know how to understand the sentiment. So please, try to explain it to me. Speak slowly and meditate on the moment you decided to act." I paused a moment and thought, her face, her eyes meeting mine. "Don't leave me alone." I tensed up and finally dared to look up at Umbron. When I looked into her face, when she begged me to save her life, I did not see a woman or a civilian speaking to me. I saw the Imperium itself. There was a long silence, then I finally spoke through. I heard the Imperium's voice crying out to me. Her voice pleading not to be left to die. "The Imperium?" Umbron asked. "How wretched a galaxy that the Imperium finds itself in. She lays alone, beautiful and austere, but alone. Her enemies, endless and malicious, seeking to swallow her whole and without remorse. She bleeds, she begs, and she whimpers, desperately crying for salvation. And where are we when she cries? Where is our Gene Father? Where is her salvation?" I fell quiet again, and Umbron let out a long sigh, and said nothing. "I'm sorry. I could not leave her to die when I could—" "You speak like our cousins among the salamanders. I might have mistaken you for one, except you lack the burns on your body." Umbron chuckled. I smirked to myself as well. "But your sentiment is a good one, Leoden. You are not wrong to feel as you do. It was foolish of me." "I do not believe so," Umbron answered. "It's easy to forget, brother, that we are human, and humans, above all our great qualities and strengths, are fragile things. We overcome fragility through fraternity, strength of arms, and ingenuity, but we are still a fragile race. My chapter master, we, as Astartes, forget this truth, because we're beyond mere humanity. We are humanity realized by the genius of the Emperor and blessed by the gene seed of our father. And Astartes who forget end up as cold and unfeeling as the iron hands or the imperial fists, or worse, our traitor brothers. I grimaced at the reminder of our great enemy. I will not be like them, Chapter Master. No, you shall not, Umbron answered affirmatively. And I know this because you heard the pleas of an innocent civilian and heard the Imperium through her. Of course, our missions are vital, and I'd ask you not to make a habit out of such behavior, but I certainly cannot fault you for your passion to protect humanity, even at its most small. Thank you, sir. But coincidentally, Umbron smirked, the same woman you saved recently came to speak to Ordinator Zebrin to request removal from the serfs. Now, why would she ask that? I did not answer, but rose to my feet. I will speak to her. See that you do, Captain.
You asked for me to see you?
I was back in my quarters, my armor now on and my hand on my knees. I sat on a large stool, and I turned to see Allison walking into my quarters again, still in her fatigues. Yes, I did, I said calmly. I understand you went to Zebrin, as I requested.
I did, but before he could expel me, Chapter Master Umbron told him not to, and then he wanted me to wait a week before leaving.
I tried to hide my smirk. I see. Serf Allison, I asked you here for 3 reasons.
Yes, sir?
The first reason is to belay my instruction. I do not wish you to leave the serfs. Demanding that of you is hasty and admittedly wrong of me. You should do as you see fit.
Thank you, sir, she breathed.
The second reason is so that I may apologize. I was harsh towards you, because I was angry.
Angry, sir?
Rescuing you has haunted me for some time. Doing so put the mission I was on at risk, and a part of me that night considered not involving myself.
Well, thank the Emperor you ignored that part of you, she tried to joke.
I didn't smile back, which made her wince. I could not come to terms with my decision, and I blame myself for it. Seeing you here only reminded me of that choice, but I see now that, while not the most practical decision, saving you was the right one. So I apologize for treating you with contempt. You can never be Astartes, but you are human, as am I, and in that we are similar.
And the third reason, sir?
She asked. I coughed and straightened up. As rescuing you was not a practical decision, and one that put the mission I was on in danger, that means I bear the responsibility for you. Therefore, I would like you to consider being in my charge. I can look after you while you're here, show you the ropes, so to speak. I watched as the watery blue eyes of her ignited, then shone with a beautiful hue that shocked me. And once again, I felt the Imperium's voice.
You truly mean that?
She asked. I do. I will take responsibility for you, if you will accept it. And I did mean it. Every word. For her, for the chapter, and for the Imperium.